conversation that was going on between people in the room. And so I've become increasingly aware from a university perspective of the fact that local authorities are extremely concerned about their workforce planning. I suppose the point there is that if they can address it in some way and improve their practices in that area, they can save money. So at the moment, if, for example, they're having to employ many people via agencies because they're in crisis over the supply of skills, they're spending much more on labour than they might need to if they could do it another way. So I thought it was worth thinking about employers. So let me see if I can still, oh, I didn't used to do that. So, you know, we were talking earlier about employers, and then I was also saying that from a university perspective, it seems to me that the university itself is incredibly interested in students gaining employment. And I think it's interested in students gaining employment probably because students themselves are interested in that, and because you pay for the university through your tuition fees, we need to listen to what you have to say. I think that in itself is a little bit of a controversial area because lots of people would say universities should be more about just the pragmatics of getting into work, and it should give you a much broader education than just one that's driven by the needs of employers.
Sorry, this bloke there.
Hi, welcome. So would you like to come and sit here? Because we're just sitting around the table, really. So that sort of idea that students in work is something that we might want to focus on, and it could be an issue of interest to students, and it also links up with what employers need. And then also thinking about the community. So increasingly community organisations are involved in delivering public services, but we also want to engage them. Potentially they're providers of really interesting work placements and work experience for students, but we'd like to get them more involved in the dialogues that we're having in these fora that Global Net 21 are arranging. So we were thinking, would there be a way of somehow bringing these areas together in relation to the issues that we might want to discuss that are kind of social policy questions, perhaps you could say. So we just listed some of the areas, and these are particularly areas I think that local authorities have interests in: education, policing and community safety, housing policy, homelessness, equality and employment. So local authorities, interestingly, are employers themselves, but they also have a responsibility to address unemployment within their local areas. So they've got a double interest in employment. And then we were thinking that there are some cross-cutting themes that intersect with all of this that we might think of as being diversity, questions around diversity. I guess that goes together with inequality to some extent. Digital enablement, which I think we can see that often digital enablement has the capacity to make a difference in lots of these areas. And I'm just trying to think of an example. Well, I'm about to do a project with 5 local authorities in North East London where we use digital analytics to try to understand what's happening with people in the workforce and why they leave jobs after 3 or 4 years of qualifying, and why local authorities can't hold on to their staff, where they're going afterwards, and if that could be understood a bit better by doing some data analysis, perhaps there would be strategies that could be created that would help solve the problem. And that links in really with the third cross-cutting theme of thinking about workforce planning. So that was it, really.
Can I just sum up for the people who came in then? What we're trying to do today is talk about what our future events are going to be from September, October on to March, April. And what we're trying to do, we've done events before in the past. What we're trying to do is do something that's more thematic, that will be of practical use as well as of use in developing ideas. So what we thought is, there are employers out there, that's this circle here, there are local authorities and other employers who are looking for people to put into placements and into jobs in the health and social care and education areas. Secondly, there's students down here who are in this university who are interested in that. Thirdly, there is a community out there who are interested in those areas of health and social care. Global Net 21, that's us, are. Students themselves are. Local authorities are. And the local community groups and voluntary groups around us are, if we can involve them as well. So what we thought we could do then is if we could take issues that would bring all these together, then we would be doing a number of things. So by taking issues like, you know, policing, community safety, knife crime, for example, it's happening a lot, and how you develop a policy around knife crime, looking at you know, initiatives that are taking place, like restorative justice, like community courts, like the experiments that they've done in Glasgow that has a public health approach to tackling knife crime. If you could do that, and you can work with local authorities or wanting to set those sort of things up, and we have students here who are studying that and doing that. We're not only doing an issue that we're interested in, we're doing an issue that employers want to confront because they've got a problem. We're doing an issue that students are studying and will have the skills to fill places. So in a way, we're in a win-win situation for everyone. And we're trying to create that sort of network synergy in order to achieve it. So that's it really.
Could I illustrate that with another, maybe a couple of examples? So if you think about social care, so we're just saying, we were saying earlier there's a crisis in social care, people would say. Yeah. That it's partly driven by the fact that the population is ageing, and so the government made a decision earlier in the week, didn't they, to, as they put it, give the NHS a birthday present. So it's the NHS's 70th birthday. Yeah. So the NHS is going to have £20 million extra. Maybe that's coming from the savings made from Brexit, or maybe they're going to raise taxes. Yeah. But you know, so there's a problem where more money is needed. But of course, it's also possible that you know, some problems could be saved by, or could be resolved by resolving workforce issues. I suppose that's the point. If you could have an absolutely perfect relationship between the supply of skilled labour and the needs of the employer, potentially you would save a lot of money in agency fees. I think.
And the need to develop new ideas. So you've got those demand, supply, and ideas.
So innovation and enterprise is another part of it. But at the moment, London Metropolitan University is going to be, or in the next month, it's going to be bidding for the opportunity to train all of London's police officers in a consortium with West London University, East London and Brunel. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to be successful with that, and I'm working to try to create the bid that will make us successful. But I can see that the workforce issues and the training of the police service is absolutely critical to the police delivering better community safety, because they think that the workforce that they've had in the past isn't really fit for purpose, and if they can, you know, they're changing the way that police officers will qualify in the future and making the police service a degree profession, and they think that that will change the culture of the police service. It will make it better, it will make it more legitimate in the eyes of the community. So I'm just drawing on this theme that there's a really interesting connection between workforce planning and all of these issues. It's not the only way of, it's not the only lens through which to see these issues, but it's one quite important one.
Okay, so really it's over to you now. What do you think of this crazy idea?
I'd like to interpret. My name is Yvonne Reynolds. I'm currently studying at University of Hearts, London, so I'm coming from an external. My sister attends here. The one thing I do congratulate, I love Mind Maps, so this is up my street, and I qualified in Business Information Technology. And one crucial thing, because I have got a background in human resources, was the mental health training. So I'm currently involved with Blackfriars, that's South London, and going all the way to central government, and through that, being with them, and working with the community, as well as the police, as well as SLAM, NHS, the approach that they looked at was highlighting the mental health on all layers of the people that's delivering the services of social care. And one thing I think what's really missed out of this, for example, social care, was the actual mental health of the actual carers, for carers. And I think one of the biggest things the government have missed was the cost of keeping the carers well. A lot of them are dealing with a lot of vulnerable sector. So I think when you look at all of those aspects, it can tie up with the mental health of top managers, middle managements, and the people grassroots level. So
But you like the synergy that's on there?
Yes, I do, but I think what's crucial, and I call it in the emergency crisis, out of office hours, the major thing that really dissipated, I call care in the community, was when out of office care went into outsourcing and there was no coordinated monitoring of it. Now that they've brought it back in now, because it had failed. It failed the community and it lost trust.
Does that capture that? I mean, it's,
yeah, and I think
does it sit as one of the topics?
And I think in terms of mental health, it does link to housing, it does link to the community and the ones that's fallen through the cracks. One thing we're good at is talking about the people. We are monitoring statistics. When someone falls through the cracks or the family, we have no way of knowing how many, you know, and then the government would say either 2 or 3 later, oh, we've missed them, but they can't give numbers, you know. So if I moved from one borough, South London, to North London, I am easily missed. So I just want to bring that in to it.
So I've just made little connections from your theme to all of the others. That's really
and housing.
Yeah, it's central, that's really
and homelessness.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things because staff is literally want to work as nurses, but they're having a mental health crisis. They become homeless. Would you believe doctors and nurses are in crisis themselves?
Okay, that's it.
You know. So I just want to point that about the workforce.
Yeah.
Why they're not staying? Because they went depressed, lost their job, became homeless.
Yeah.
And that's professionals. So that's the saddest part is professionals are now talking as if they're people who are not educated. That's not the case. Health professionals are in crisis. And I think the present the government's given, it's not a present, they've held the wages of staffers for 7 years. So it's like, you know, it's giving me something that they were entitled to. So that's about pay.
Okay, so anyone else, I mean, anyone else want to react to that overall idea of trying to create this synergy of bringing all this together?
So for me, the thing that seems missing, not criticism, but just...
Oh, hang on, let me put it in the right.
Actually, I'm going to stick it in the middle of those circles. It's just a word. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I can't spell.
Change.
Yeah.
Because the thing I notice, I do a lot of contracting, I do a lot of coaching, do a lot of change, and the thing I notice is wherever you look, we're approaching a world that's changing so fast with old models and trying to, if you take the example we just had, let's just slap a bit more money onto something rather than actually taking a step back and asking the question, how do we need to learn to be with change? Because the one thing we're going to have to be able to do, whether you're looking at Brexit, whether you're looking at any criteria, is learn to change, be more nimble around change. And if I look at why people leave, you see it. They go to an organisation, they're all excited, they want to do a great job, they keep bucking up against kind of middle management usually that don't want to do anything except wait for their pension. They get fed up, they leave, they go somewhere else. And, you know, after a while they just zone out, then they go travelling, come back and start the whole thing all over again. And I think, really, how do we become a society that can become nimble at restructuring and changing and making different kinds of alliances so that we can meet the needs wherever it is? That's the thing for me.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I'm glad you did that because actually that's the thing that brings everything together into the 21st century. Anyone else who wants to comment on the overall sort of thematic way of doing things? Sort of fits in quite nicely with your networking, social networking ideas, doesn't it?
Yeah, fascinating. I guess what's going through my head, just to explain what I've been doing quite a bit of with my colleague Drew Mackey, is network mapping and network analysis. So we're all very familiar with geographic maps as ways of showing where resources are and signposting people go to this, that or the other. Perhaps not quite so familiar with maps which can show relationships between people, organisations, or indeed issues like that. So what you've got is a complex, I guess, ecosystem, if you like, of all of these different interests around these different issues who may not be for whose success in coping, delivering and so forth is probably very dependent on understanding what's going on in the totality and connecting with each other, but don't necessarily know each other very well because they're operating in silos. And I'm sure some of you are far closer to the ground than I am. But if you combine perhaps the use of data, which is becoming increasingly important, and ways to develop maps of how people and organisations and issues and resources interrelate, we may be able to make more of what we've got. And obviously this relates to asset-based community development, for example, which is an approach which says start with what you have in an area, make the most of that, encourage connections, particularly in the community. So I guess I'm just interested in how we think about this as networks and how you make networks work better. And some of those are kind of managed networks, if you like, where you say, as a convener, I want to identify the people, the resources and so forth in this particular field. It might be mental health, find the crossovers and develop a network and better communications within that network. Or it might be enhancing the informal networking which people need to do. Don't have any magic solutions, but it's perhaps a perspective that could be useful. Or are you seeing any of that already happening in the work that you're doing?
I'm not working at community level yet.
Okay.
I work, this is just a general comment around organisations. I worked a lot in charities, and when I was working at one particular organisation, we had to create a new data capture system and around community engagement with refugees, as it happens. And what I noticed is that we were tending to focus on people, and we couldn't agree on how to label people. And when we took the focus away from the people and their characteristics and placed it on their needs, so what needs were coming to the organisation, and then once we agreed what needs the organisation was dealing with, we then looked at what characteristics the people having those needs had, and it gave us an ability to compare and contrast across the UK how different teams were dealing with the same types of problems, and how if a group of people had certain needs and you add another issue like, for example, homelessness, what impact that had. And so I think the solution may be to look at how we traditionally do stuff and just try different ways to give us a different perspective. And we may well fail, but I don't think we're going to do any worse than we're doing. Well, not that we're doing, I don't mean that, I don't want to be negative, but I think we need different responses and different ways of looking at things to find ways of using resources maybe more effectively.
Anyone else who wants to come in?
And can I put in, I was involved in sort of a dashboard, and I did ask as a point of interest on the information system. They didn't have a way of tracking when someone was entering into a crisis. It was as if the system only kicks in when the person was in crisis, but there wasn't, I called it a progression indicator. So if you had a cluster, for example, in a ward, the actual dashboard had no way of alerting the relevant, for example, that slum area to say, we've got a cluster, it's gone over 10. There was no troubleshooting in the dashboard, as it were. So we're very good at capturing data. We've got this family in crisis or this family in crisis. For example, a cluster of knife crimes. But there was no way of tracking this cluster. For example, if you had over a weekend, you had 5 stabbings, for example, in North London. There wasn't a kickback to the police or to the relevant agent to say, listen, we need to bring the resources quickly. And I think you're so right. it's good to do change, but it's the response. If you respond 2 weeks later, it's often of no use if I'm in crisis. You know, so I think responsiveness within a dashboard, because we're using a lot of technology based, but they don't have any feelings. So if they said 10 people got stabbed, the dashboard said 10 people got stabbed. There's, you know, you're not connecting with a
Could I add
person.
something on the...
Sorry,
on
so
the- do you mind if I add something on the picture?
sorry, go on.
Just one thing that made me...
With artificial intelligence.
That I thought of
Sorry.
from the things that everybody's just been saying is, so, David, you were talking about net
Right, okay.
that's the
Beauty of technology.
It's not gone, don't
No,
worry,
no.
I don't think.
Yeah, yeah.
Network.
Oh, that hasn't gone.
Mhm.
Goodness. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
Net-
network.
network. David, you were saying network mapping. Is that?
Yeah, good idea.
And I was thinking research, which is one of the things that universities do.
Yeah.
And development.
And you know, we were talking about data and analytics, maybe dashboards,
Innovation thing out the go there.
and it's sort of action is what I was hearing,
Yeah.
and the need to kind of connect cause and response in a rapid way,
Yeah.
which somehow,
Feedback.
yeah, and evaluation, which was partly maybe your point.
Yeah, so what I would be interested in, if there are 5 stabbings in different part of London, of course you want to respond to that, but what I would be interested in is what characteristics do the people coming from those families have? What predictors can you start to put together? What friends do they have? What predictors? Because until you're starting to look at the predictors, you can never prevent it from happening. You'll only ever have, so all you can ever do is get quicker at responding. And so I think there's something around the predictors.
Well, my thing was A&E. The first people on the spot is either the church, the family, or the friend with a stabbing. And what I found was that data captured in A&E was not being fed back directly to the dashboard that could automatically go straight to the community police. And I'm not talking the police because we've got the bodies that go to the stabbings in the hospitals that are neutral. And I think, and that's why I always love when they said the local community, the people that are not behind the police, I think they're totally neutral, and you're either finding our sort of ethnicity, it's the church, or it's the pastor, or that body that they know they can trust. And it's surprising, the pastor does know more stabbings than the actual police, because the family would have confided in the pastor, that network, rather than the actual police. You know, so that's what I'm just saying. Those community members within the voluntary sector, they have more accurate figures, would you believe? And I'm talking on a ward level that could feed. And I think I'm talking more in terms of comparison.
But they could be an interesting predictor there. So,
Yeah.
for example, if we had the data coming in, not the people, but the data coming in from the religious organisations, and you started to see that where there's an escalation of data from them, that's going to eventually lead to an escalation on the streets. You know you have to start, well, you have the opportunity to start looking at how you diffuse that situation or what's causing the problem.
That is the basis of the Glasgow model.
That's
Okay.
I mean, the idea of
It's
that
Glasgow, yeah?
is that they say we're not going to get rid of high crime like that. You know, some people think lock them up, you've got rid of it, that doesn't do it. We're not going to do it. What we find out is we have a public health approach to it. We look at the predictors, we look at what's happening, we work on that. And what Glasgow did, from being the most violent city in Western World in terms of assaults, not necessarily killings and murders, but assaults, they went to a period where they had 0 assaults in 1 month after a year, 15 months of doing this, because they worked on the predictor, preventative, public health model. And it's exactly what I said. I was just wondering, I mean, just to look at that, I mean, are you happy that these are the sort of issue areas that we should be concentrating on? Because we now have got mental health definitely in it, which links to all of them. Because if you are, and if you aren't, and if you think there's something else we've left out, please say so. But if you are, I think maybe, I don't know what you think, the next step forward. Sorry, you can say something.
Yes, just to take you a little bit back, I've got 40 people watching worldwide. So first of all, to thank you, all of you, while we're just at this stage. People are asking me a question, what's the topic here today? And I'm answering, it's University Engagement Global Net 21 Future Meetings, collaborating with London University. And quickly say your names so that I get to know your names before I call and announce the names of the people that are watching. Can you just quickly, we forgot to do a quick intro. Please allow me to do that, Francis. Yes, let's start there.
I'm Sally Jenga, third year student at uni.
Okay, what are you studying?
Criminology and psychology.
Sorry, Sally Jenga, yeah? Okay, next one, please.
Heather Salmon,
Okay,
and I'm the founder of the Positive Change Initiative.
yeah.
Amira Hussain, and I currently work at UCL. I've done some program officer roles, and now I've just moved into the engagement department.
I'm Michael Poku, and I'm a member of Global Net 21.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Innocent Mupati. I'm an accounting and finance student here at London Met, and I've also worked in social care and in compliance.
Thank you.
David Wilcox, member of Global Net 21, particularly working on how we can use network thinking, network maps, and technology and storytelling to create a more connected London.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Reynolds, Employing Visual Radio, and I'm studying at University of Art London, CSM, and I'm doing MA in Applied Imagination in Creative Industries.
Thank you. And
I'm Ivy May Reynolds. I'm a media and communications student here at London Met, and I work in a local charity with young people promoting education.
Hi, my name is Ali Ali. I'm studying LLB Law at London Met. I'm going to my second year from September, 2 years out. And I'm also the member of Global 21 and other various things as well.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Amina Abba. I'm a consultant in acute medicine. So I see the effects of the trauma and mental health problems at the secondary care level. I'm very much interested in looking at how to work with communities in terms of prevention, and so I'm here.
Chris Lane, I'm Head of Partnerships at London Metropolitan University.
David Renner, a member of Global Net 21, and my latest idea is to naturally nurture nature.
And Elsie?
I'm Ursula Jeffers. I'm a member of Global 21. I also have my own Ursula Jeffers Foundation, and I'm working on a program of eradicating poverty worldwide.
And Francis?
Oh, and I'm Francis Seeley. I'm the founder of Global Net 21, and this is one of our ventures to link some of the things we do in our community with students through London Met.
And I'm Juliet Makapila, and I'm the founder of UK Africa Diaspora Forum. We've got 46 or 47 people watching us. We've got people, let me just quickly appreciate all of them to show you how technology really works beautifully. And this is a very good example. I want to appreciate Theo Bat Philip. Thank you. Susan Bogwa, all the way from Kenya, we thank you. Koi Kirumpa, a good friend of mine, Jaimo Kama, watching us as well. Leah Karoli, Judy Kirui, I went to school with when I was young in Kilimo Primary School, all the way in Kamathansha. Thank you, Wills, for coming in. Merindira, thank you so much. Leah Caroline, Merindira again. Alice Bright is all the way, I believe, in Birmingham or Coventry. Lizzie Kaima also has come in from Kenya. Joyfrey Ajengo, all the way from Kenya. So thank you so much, London Metropolitan. Sarah Hall, we appreciate you. Arthur Shallow, watching all the way in Kakamega, perhaps in Owebuye in Kenya as well. Princess Dinja, all the way in Nigeria, watching us as well. Nyambura Lydia, we thank you as well. Hadija Mohammed, we thank you as well. Kate Kene, Afiz Mohammed, Tyras Wayaki, Sasha Simik, Kirigo Wanjohi, DJ Yasin, Kathy Crest, all the way in North Carolina, we thank you for coming on. Duncan, Duncan, we appreciate you. I know you're outside London as well. Jenny Leki and Mudia Modale, we thank you. Rose Njoki Adelaja Oyemiki, Elizabeth Koroma, all the way here also in London, our community leader for sickle cell. We appreciate you for watching. We are talking about how we engage communities. She's a support person in sickle cell. Thank you for coming in. Komel Kirop as well in Kenya. Kenrick Williamson, thank you. Olayomiki is normally doing this for us actually, and today he's off. So we appreciate this young man for bringing technology to us. Olayomiki should have been here doing this for me. Nikelim, thank you so much. She's a beauty pageant. Paul Wesika as well, watching from Kenya. Timothy Mopureri, watching from Kenya as well. Anthony Fernandez is Global Net 21. We appreciate you. So Wade Basil, thank you. And more are coming in. And Princess Buki, thank you so much. Thank you for coming in. We bring you live, so you're all welcome.
And to that global audience that you're streaming to, what we're trying to do is link up ideas with service providers like local authorities, employers who are looking for skills and labour, students who are studying and provide that, and a whole community of people who are interested in change and ideas. And if we can find ways of doing that in the events and activities we're doing here at London Met, we will have achieved quite, I think, an exciting project. Well, I was thinking that, talk about predictors and so on. One way we might go forward is to say, pick our first topic that we're going to do in the autumn, whether that's September or October, I'm not sure. Let's take, for example, community safety as a possible one that we might do. We would hold a meeting here. We might combine it with other events, like, for example, some webinars associated with it, which might involve some people in London Met who've done some research around that, people who are working in the area of police. I've already made contact with someone called Catherine McCluskey to do a webinar. Now, Catherine is the person who set up the Glasgow experiment. She was a police officer, and she was the energy and the driving force that led them to cut assaults down from the highest in the developed world to zero. And she is likely, I hope she's going to do a webinar with us, we'll see. But, so we can combine an event like the ones we have here with a series of other events that give us a sort of shop front to what's happening out there and creates the knowledge base that people have that associate with what we're doing. But what it might be quite good to do, I don't know if we want to do it now, and we want to draw it on the board, and you're good at drawing, Chris, I'm hopeless. My handwriting is terrible. Sure. My handwriting is terrible. I'm so embarrassed about writing on the board, but ever since I've been typing, every year my handwriting gets worse and worse. I write something down, and then I go to read it, and I can't even read my own writing. It's that bad. But anyhow, if someone else wants to do it, I thought if we took something like community safety and then looked at, these four circles and how we integrated around a specific issue, it would give us a way forward. And then if we do that in a very rough strategy, it'll give us a model to look at the other things that we might be doing in the year. Is that worth doing? Who wants to be the board person? Who's good at writing on the board?
She's good at
I love mind maps.
She does.
Shall I just get it ready with a blank sheet?
Yeah.
Shall we?
You're going to do it, right?
No,
you're going to do it.
She does mine.
Oh, sorry.
Boxes and linking.
Okay. Does anyone know the score of the football match yet?
Only 2 minutes old.
And just while you're in, we bring in Princess Buki. Thank you so much for coming in. Olaide Olayinki, Cheke Wafuna, thank you so much for watching from France. Bishop George Odhiambo, I appreciate you, and hello back to you. Lisa Brett, thank you so much as well for coming in. Margot Kiplagat, thank you for watching all the way from Kenya. Ole Teja, thank you for watching. Maureen Alwatch, thank you as well for coming in. Simon Wilson, we bring you in as well. So many thanks. Please all bring your ideas. What topics would you like to come in and talk about for the next 8 months. We are planning, here is our planning meeting and how we do plan in these meetings. So please, please, please let me know what kind of subjects and what kind of topics you would like to plan. Today was university engagement and also the planning meetings and where I get my topics from. So please, please, please do comment as I continue so that I know what kind of topics we are also talking about.
Communities we want to bring into that will be Global Net 21, the students, GN 21, students, some local voluntary groups, because you were saying that they know a lot about what's happening out there.
And I can do the voluntary sector.
Yeah, voluntary sector. Then we will want to bring in, what's that?
That's the faith groups covered the churches. And
don't you put them under voluntary sector?
The reason why I split it, some are run as charities, and some are also run as church, and they're also streamed with charities. So I'm going to put charities, so not all churches are based on the charity model, much as we believe it.
Then the employers that would be interested in that, and the service providers. Would be local authorities.
I'm doing like a real pen, just trying to see the mind.
Local authorities. The police. Mental health, public health.
I want to add the mayor's office.
Well, he can local authorities. The local authorities and sheet. Let's just see what we, how that fits.
Are we including like NHS, SLAM?
So we've got community, we've got students. And but the students are part of the community, then down here are students as possible work placement and employment opportunities. And that covers our whole
Could we add in research, stroke, university?
oh, yes.
Not to say that universities have a monopoly on research, because it happens at grassroots level.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
So,
Anyone know the score yet? By the way?
So it's up for you.
Really
What
hopeless.
team is it you're supporting? Anyone?
African diaspora, ethnicity.
And the thing what I'm finding with my maths, they're really good at showing interrelationships for quite complex stuff. So when people are trying a lot of things, what I find with these graphics, it really clarifies. And if he says, oh, that's rubbish, you just take out a section, you know. So one thing I do find with my maths is so good, what I find, especially in the academic level. So sometimes when I'm rambling, or when I put in a graph, it makes more sense. And I think, and it saves paperwork. And a report for 100 pages, you can get it down to 2.
So what we need to do now maybe is turn this into a paper around a series of events and then see how we can incorporate all these things into those events. And as I said, those events could be the event we have here, say in October, plus 2 or 3 webinars that we associate with it. Underlying this, incidentally, are some major themes that Chris talked about that we haven't got here, like diversity and digital enablement. We're planning to do a House of Commons meeting, I think, in the autumn on diversity, though that is at the moment just the twinkle of an idea, but it's likely to come off, I would think. And that we can associate with this as well. So the next step really for us is to translate this into tangible outcomes in terms of events and activities. Anyone want to come in on that?
So I have a question. What's the intention? I get you're creating outcomes, but what's the intention of this? Is the intention to collect data, or is the intention to make a difference so something changes? I'm just...
Okay, tell me if you think I'm right, Chris, because we've just gone through this, so I'm making this up as I go.
Sure.
Intention 1 is to provide an opportunity for people who have employment. This is real practical things which universities will be interested in. Make an opportunity for those who have places for employment to meet people who have skills and ability and attributes in those areas. And for those people who are studying here and have that, to meet people who are interested in possible placements. And that's a really idea of what they did in New York, which saw them, through the use of community courts, reduce murders from a lot to nothing. And to look at those new ideas and to see how ideas relate to delivery in terms of employment opportunities and so on. To bring in the university academia with the research that they've done to develop and to expand some of those new ideas about change. And to involve through GlobalNet 21, the voluntary sector and communities, a whole community out there who is engaged in a wider way in developing those ideas so that they can get away from the blueprints they've always been thinking about in the 20th century into developing new ideas. Now that's off the top of my head, but I think those are the things that would go. David, go on.
Well, just another bit of top of the head. I mean, what we found, stuff that Drew and I have been doing in communities, it can be useful to have some kind of a framework for working with all these inevitably slightly abstract ideas and so forth. In one sense, it's great if you can work in a particular community, but people then spend quite a lot of time saying our place isn't like that and so forth. What we've done is to invent a fictitious community, the London Borough of Slipham, and we populated it with organisations and people and topics and so forth, and we've used that at events to discuss and capture challenges like the ones we're talking about here, some solutions and so forth. So you're developing a scenario profile of a place, if you like, and populating it with people who are going to be part of the solution. And you can then, further down the line, if you want to, actually turn that into an interactive game. So you can throw into that, ideally you have people who are representing the sort of people and organisations that would be relevant here, and say, all right, here's the challenge, here's the life crime challenge, here's something else, or whatever. What happens now? Who connects with that? Who doesn't connect with that? And what changes might we need to make to improve that? So, sorry, that's just one of the things we've done. That generally, the question in my mind, perhaps paralleling the kind of outcomes issue of how do you connect these diverse challenges and solutions that may be coming from different places into some possible practical receptacle, if you like. And I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but that's one thought.
I mean, I in terms of doing things like that, I mean, the other outcomes that would come from it, I hope, is that not only will employers find staff and students find jobs, but wherever you've got them on your chart, I can't find them, where's the local authorities? Here they are. Local authorities, by engaging with us, might come up with some new ideas. Now, you know, I've been talking, in GlobalNet we have a Facebook group, I also have a local group in Enfield called Enfield Voices, and we've been talking about community safety and trying to get councillors to look at some of these predictive ideas, how you can approach community safety. So by developing these ideas, not just with a general audience, but with local authority people as well, we might get them to change policy. And that, I think, would be a real achievement if we could do that. So, yeah.
I just want to add on that, and think about what subject you're doing as a student. So, like now I'm looking at people who are doing biomedical sciences. I don't remember all of them. There's a doctor here. But I want you to look at this chart and how we are doing it. And think about an area of development that you can champion as well. So one of the things that we really enjoy doing is ensuring that you also support something that you're also able to create change, to bring good change. We all want a better planet. And if you go back to some of our principles within Global Net 21 or even UK Africa Diaspora Forum, is to bring that 21st century thing, and we want a better world. So while we are thinking at this about this, please bring your subjects, your topic. That I love what you've been speaking about. Bring what you want to see us speaking about within the next 8 months. So we are talking from until next year now. So any subject that is in your heart, we are picking on them right now. We will be selecting a subject. So these are your interests. So in the areas of checking reality check, because you asked the question, why do we do this as well? We love to create education, we love to create empowerment, we love to create capacity building as well within the community. We also love to bring a dialogue, especially Global Net 21 is a community that brings in that kind of dialogue voluntarily. So it is a kind of effective way whereby there's no right or wrong, but we question things, we research on things, we have experts in this field as well. We have learning and sharing, which is something that we use within this platform. Learning and sharing is our core principle, so we always learn from different fields. As you can see, you all come from different fields. Tonight here we've got mainly people from social sciences department. So yes, I just wanted to add on that, Francis.
Okay, and Chris, you were trying to say that?
A few things. One thing I was thinking was the major issue that the Metropolitan Police think they have is that they can't recruit a legitimate workforce or a workforce that has legitimacy because they can't recruit from the diversity of London's communities. And I've been talking to them a bit about how that could be addressed. And I think that's quite an interesting question. Why is it that the Metropolitan Police can't recruit from the diversity of London's communities? And I just wonder whether a question like that could be an interesting one to pose within this context. It's not directly about community safety, but it's indirectly about it, because I think if the police don't represent the communities they serve, to me that's not a safe community. And I think that, yeah.
Well, I'll ask the question then, what's going on in the Human Resources Department? Because one thing I do always ask myself, when it comes to the diversity of workforces, is it just ticking an exercise, or are we really going to the graduates, for example, within, you know, when Endon used to do their training, and you know, it was very regimented, and I think the processes of HR have loosened. That's not so much regimented. They've got innovative ways of talking to the young people at primary school, talking to the young people within secondary schools, that would naturally look at the police, not colourless, you know, into say that is a good career to go in. Like, you know, my parents would say, become a doctor or a surgeon because it was a good professional job. That's not so much the case of parents saying to their children, this is a good profession to be. So I think we need to take a step back and go back to the parent forums within schools, because parents or the guardians of the carers, they do influence the choices when it comes to career choices. Sorry.
And so just to respond to that, so I've raised that question with the Metropolitan Police's Director of Human Resources,
Yes.
and I've also raised it with the new recruits into the police service who do come from more diverse backgrounds, together in fora with the HR people. Yeah. And it's just interesting to me that the main thing that people singled out was exactly the one that you just highlighted, which was to do with the kind of community influences. And anyway, so I suppose I just think that it would be quite interesting to think about whether there are focusing type questions that we could introduce, and that might tell us a bit about who we should be inviting to speak. And I think, you know, it could be somebody like the Director of Human Resources for the Metropolitan Police, for example, or somebody else.
And I could tell you the ideal solution. If you go and the police went to churches and told the pastors, and I think we need to connect back with the faith groups. And I'm talking about inner London because it's not appropriate for all places, rural places, but particularly in inner London, we had a disfragmentation, can I say that? In terms of the view of looking at the police as a possible violent.
So in terms of action, one of the outcomes of that would be that you would get a very direct impact, wouldn't you? Because you've actually got, it's not just having a speaker talking to an audience, but it's actually more the audience talking back to the speaker who may be in a position.
I think that it's really important for the police to understand that I'm old enough to remember Stephen Lawrence when it happened. And they lost a generation of black boys when that happened. They started to carry knives because they didn't feel safe, and it wasn't that Stephen was killed, that wasn't the problem. It was the way the police reacted. They felt as if they had no recourse to the police. And those people have raised another generation. It's no surprise to me that this generation treat, along with computer games, treat knives as if it's like, you know, you put your keys in your pocket. So if the police want to address that, they have to start looking at how they, one, communicate now with people on the street. And I'm not saying they should be easy on certain groups of people to be nice, but Stephen Lawrence left something in the space, and they've never done anything to actually redress that. And I just don't think you can, every time something like that happens, it will become harder and harder for them to recruit.
I acknowledge that. Interestingly, you know, so much of what's happening now, this shift in the way that the Met think that they need to train police officers, comes in the aftermath of Macpherson. So, you know, in a sense, you know, there's cause and effect there.
Let those who want to take a photo of this, because I can't get much more on
there.
And then let's go to a new page and look at some key questions that you said that we might want to address, yeah?
And while you're thinking about that, can I hear from these gentlemen over here as well? I want to hear your key topics and what you would like to see, please, just before we move. Okay, is there any particular topic that you really...
You've actually touched on it, because I was hoping that there would be some engagement with the issues surrounding BAME community, particularly knife crime.
Okay, thank you.
And police.
So we've touched it. Okay, right. Is there anything that we're missing in that? Everybody else?
I'm particularly interested in diversity.
Diversity?
And inclusion.
Yeah, diversity
and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Because having spoken with various age groups, especially the youngsters, you find that there is a feeling that they are not included in the processes, in the communities, or even in policy making. So probably that's another avenue we could explore, and develop further.
Okay, and can I hear from Sheila, Jenga, please?
Well, I would think maybe targeting young people as well, getting them to include them when you are coming together in things like this, to hear their point of views and how, they would like to, as a mother of 2 teenage boys, I think it's important because out there, there's so much they gather from out there. And when we don't get to talk to them, they hold it within themselves, you know what I mean? So I think it's important when we get them involved and hear their point of views.
Thank you. And from you as well.
Yes, I've been very attentive in listening to all this, and I think the issues raised are quite important. And when you talk about looking and identifying what triggers the problems before it's too late and people already want to combat and diagnose and have these interventions and these laws, but I think the main thing is what socio-economical factors are creating mental health problems or knife crime. I think that should be the main things that we focus on. And then thereafter looking at engagement, collaboration. So I think you're right about there's mistrust with the police from Stephen Lawrence, but also the Muslim community. I think it's hard that I don't know very many Muslims in my own community who want to go into the police because you almost feel as though you're going to work with the same system that discriminates against you. So for that reason, I don't think all Muslims or anyone who feels persecuted from the system should just resist them. I think there should be some kind of access or facilities to focus on how you can work with the system and how there can be positive role models so that they're engaging with the people who are resisting and who are being discriminated.
Thank you. And David here, please. What would you like to see? You're a member of Global Net 21. What would you like to see?
More of the same.
More of the same. Okay. And yourself here, please.
I just want to say about how to recruit from diversity of population. I just want to ask, do the population know what they're expected of when they're like, for example, certain races of people why not being like recruited? Do we know why? Do you know the process, or is it just something like internal, like you know someone, or is it like, because for example, I don't think everybody will want to work for the police, but is it?
What's the topics you would like? Tell me what kind of topics. Yes, we've got policing. What other topics are you interested with between now and next year?
From those?
No, anything. Even outside this, what other topics are you interested?
Mostly all of them.
Okay.
But I could certainly help in. I would like to be involved in most of the things and help as much as I can.
Okay, but is there a particular subject that you're interested with apart from what? Pick really. One from. Okay.
Well, I would just say community safety.
Okay, so this group is really about policing, okay? And yourself, Doctor, here, can I hear from you?
Well, I think for me, we see the effects in the A&E and what is the social responsibility of physician in terms of preventing these things happening. So I'm particularly interested in the role of alcohol and drug addiction and the effects of that on mental health, on poverty, on generally disempowerment of people in the community, and how we can empower people, give the power back, looking at all the socio-economic factors, because I feel that within the NHS we're putting plaster on wounds, but we're not really looking at the root cause. And we know that there are specific people keep coming back, and the same people keep coming back. And sometimes it results in loss of lives and huge disabilities. So I'm interested in how we can work. You mentioned about the A&E data. What are we doing with the A&E data? Because we always see that the effects. But I feel strongly that we have a responsibility in working upstream to work with communities to prevent these problems.
Thank you. So we've got community, policing, health, and what topics are you interested with? What really drives you as a person?
The community topic.
Okay.
Because it's important to be safe, to live in a safe environment,
Mm-hmm.
to reduce the amount of crimes and deaths around. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, the young people are the new generation, so it's important that the community we live in at the moment is safe for them to be good examples of the generation later on.
Okay. Can you tell people what your name is and
My
also
name is Marie.
and what you study?
I study biomedical science.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so
Can-
much. And
can-
Elsie, just one more.
I see now. On the board, you don't have access. You need to put access somewhere in there.
Okay.
Because all these things out there and no access to it. The majority of people don't have access to what is here at this point in time. What's going to happen after Brexit? You better slip Brexit in on the board as well. Because what's going to happen after Brexit is what we all have to deal with. And include all these things into Brexit.
And yourself over here.
Okay. What I do, media and communities, and that is the crunch of it. The media is the communicator that links everyone. And I did a little research for part of my module, and that was going to the community, talking about the knife and gun crime. And the point I raised was, what's the difference between Stephen Lawrence and what is currently happening? And it came across, what has happened since Stephen Lawrence is that the trust in the police has been mentioned prior. So I take that to say what is happening at London Met, making the police service a qualification. You go to university, anyone will do the modules, police and community, and all those care. And that gives you a qualification that you have a commonality to say, with this, I can go and apply for the job, to do the finals training, to be, to go on the street or to do the specific of policing. But like all other qualifications, the teacher, you will go to, you've done a BA in education. So all the community services, civil matter crime. But the media is such an influence. Folks are saying, well, we see it on the news. How does the reporters highlight it? Are they blowing it out of context? And then, one of the social worker that I interviewed, he brought up the Glasgow model, and he's working right here in Islington and Haringey with the young people. He got to the point where now he does like a Saturday session with these young people. He does sports with them. And what he was saying, by doing sports with them, he's teaching responsibility. He's teaching them how to work together. What he's saying, they don't know. You are responsible for doing a job. You have a part to play in the team. And this is what is coming out. The police are doing a work in the society, and if they're not there, it will be total disorder. But they said, now we take the knife, we take the gun, because we're telling the other we are protecting ourselves, and that shouldn't be.
And just the next question I'm going to ask now, we are moving on to the next question.
Can I just mention to her, she did ask me what
Sorry.
was about, she came in late. Can I do a 30-second
Yeah,
summary?
sure.
What we're trying to do is plan events for the next 6 months, and we're looking at how we can link what employers want and what students can offer with some of the big ideas like community safety, social care, ageing and so on, and how we can develop that using the research of the university, using the communities we've got, voluntary sector and our own, linking it with employers and with students who can provide skills and creating a synergy around it. That's basically what we're doing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Or just put something on the table. I really understand why they may be moving towards the police going to university. The question I have around that is, will policing then become divorced from certain communities, or maybe there will be some people who may not be university types who will be brilliant policemen or policewomen, and how do we ensure that we have a police force that reflects all of the different communities and communities people come from, not a group of people who by definition have probably been quite...
The next thing, we're going to put those questions up.
Yeah, I would just quickly.
Should we do that because we've got half an hour
Cadets.
and it might be good to go to the next screen and put the questions up like the ones you're asking and the ones that Chris raised. Because if we have the questions, we have this and we have the other screen, and we have what Juliet's just recorded. We've got a lot of material to bring together.
Yes, and just to bring in people abroad want to understand how they can engage with you globally as well. So we've got that coming in while we are deciding this. Think about all the topics over here because we're going to be going to our next page. Think about the questions. This is how we set our questions because myself and Francis normally have to pick to these questions that you're setting in today. Sometimes we pick on a theme, but we select from this kind of topics. So usually we have engaged most of you in terms of selecting the kind of topics that we have decided we want. I can see someone saying to me, talk about how peace issues as well, and how that, and security issues and how that affects us globally. So that is coming from outside as well, and that also it comes under policing as well. Peace and security comes in. Yes. Questions? Yeah.
So the questions, your question was...
Yeah, my question is, how do we ensure that the police force, whilst becoming more professionally educated, doesn't exclude people from backgrounds who wouldn't necessarily consider university the right option? I don't know how to say that.
Okay. Which is a reverse side.
And can I just I know that it's not really the task of this exercise to answer the questions. But that's a question that the police force, the Metropolitan Police, are absolutely asking. They're very concerned about it. And my answer is, as the university in the whole country with the greatest diversity of students in its student body currently, I think it would be really good if they gave the contract to London Met. That's my answer.
So one is then, how do we have a police force that reflects our communities?
Yeah, yeah.
Then another question might be, how do we have a model that predicts and...
Well, they can predict when a car's going to break down now, so can they use AI and this sort of thing to predict when communities are going to break down?
How do we have a police force? That's fine. That's our communities, because we know what that means. That's fine. Then the other one is, how do we actually have a policy that is preventative rather than is based upon punishment and looks at predictors? You're doing really well. I'm glad I'm not doing this.
Amazing.
Because no one would know what was up there. I can make it up when I go home. By the way, it's 1-1 the last time I looked. I know you're anxious.
Africa, one can do one.
Could I actually put in the use of I'll explain it. The use of information technology, creative things such as music. You raised a good one about gamification within training.
So how does that become a question?
So I said the use of gamification to change recruitment within HRs. That's very big and that's very current. The use of gamification, and it also links in the fact that reaching communities that do not normally consider police, biology, or for example even environmental studies.
So how does that link?
The fact that I can do an app, a game, that tap into the young people like zombies. You can tap into the same zombies and make it into a positive sort of thing. So the use of gamification in human resources, HR departments.
I was saying to Chris earlier that we've done some work with the University of Salford and NHS Digital about digital apps and health and well-being, which brings you into that.
And it does bring into the point of police and why is it difficult. it's more about knowledge. If you did a game which said this is what it is to be like a police, show it the environment, you will have, and I'll show you apps, you'd have a game for the police on the same like Apple Store, and you said, okay, for example, there's Brighton, we've got a drunk person, what would you do? And you make it into a game, and then you'd have another incident, oh, there's a bombing in Liverpool at a concert, what would you do? You'd be amazed. The very people we're saying in the Asian community, you have a section, I'm an Asian police officer, and there's this incident, what would you do? And it addresses every issue within a game. And what's the beauty of games? The statistics, it's the data. The statistics is on point, it's accurate. Because I've got a website that when I get the statistic, the back end, it not only tells me who, where, I can tell you what country someone's looking at. So when the police says, oh, why can't we recruit people from a certain thing? It's, and the course I'm studying, it uses creative methodology to social issues. So we look at real social issues, but from a creative standpoint, or we're addressing the same thing. So I'm just saying, let's start bringing in creativity, bringing back the arts, music, thing, to actually address these issues. Because not everybody want to be told about doom and gloom. Sorry.
Yeah, another question is focusing concisely on the type of collaboration. So I understand you said enterprise, getting them jobs and trying to have the police recruit students from London Metropolitan. So enterprise is one kind of collaboration, but then research you said is another type of collaboration.
Enterprise and employment collaboration, research collaboration, and
education
and organisational collaboration, joined up working. So those three areas.
And what's the third one, sorry?
Joined up working between the agencies, collaboration between health, local authorities, the voluntary sector, especially if you have a public health-led approach to community safety. So you've got enterprise employment collaboration, and we've got education, and down here, which is separate in a way, is joined up working to deliver services.
So yeah, the question was the types of collaboration, and it's just elaborating on how you can engage.
Yeah, so these are different types of collaboration.
So
Call it joined up working between the agencies.
I also want to hear from your courses. What courses we've had from policing and criminology and health? I want to hear different courses and communities. Yes, tell me in accounts, what kind of things would you want to see? Something about resourcing, because you're looking into accounts. Can you tell us something in that?
There will be a shot in the dark. Not necessarily in accounts. I'm still focusing on inclusion.
Okay.
My question is going to be, what is being done to ensure there is inclusion in all the communities, in policing, even in all aspects of governance, and maybe I'm now moving into compliance, and how do we ensure all these communities are involved? Because again, talking about diversity, it's quite a big topic, it's quite a big issue. And having worked in social care myself, interviewing various types of people, I noticed that some people felt they didn't qualify to work in certain sectors of the economy because of their religion or color of their skin, or even because whether they were black or white. So those are that's my big question. What is being done to promote inclusion?
Thank you. Yeah. And any pressing issues? Any other subjects we've missed, please? Yes, Elsie?
This is very good, and I agree with whatever we're saying here is very good. And one thing that we're missing is that the people need to buy the money that is to buy a farm. Yeah?
Yes.
We have Brexit coming along, billions of pounds. The people will buy that too. equal the money to the people of each country. If we're going to do something like that, equal the money of each country. It's 1 million people, £1 million, £1 million coin. And then the people will have an opportunity to make sure that £1 million are working on their behalf. How it's supposed to be. Because once people get money these days, they don't have no responsibility to anybody else but their own little group. And if we can open that group up, that other people can sell it to children, young people, especially in our community, fall off the grid. If they don't fall off the grid because they don't want to learn, they fall off the grid because they say things are not fair all along the way. And if we can get an opportunity to earmark that money and take it for ourselves, even a single pound coin, Mrs. M is talking about that, but I'm going to see what she do. We need the money that is earmarked for everybody to belong to all the people.
Thank you so much. So,
okay. So, yeah, are there any more questions? Because I think the next thing, what we can't do now is work on it, because we've got a lot of chaos on the board, which is very creative, and I suppose the job now is for some of us to sit down, look at it, and create some sort of order out of the menage there, which is really exciting, because a lot of really good ideas have come up tonight, a great focus, a great sort of way forward, which I think is something we've not had. We've not had the context that we've had today. And this will help us think the university in with ideas, which is what university is about, and also the employment needs of students and the employment needs of employers as well. So I think we've done a lot. So I'll take a photo of this and everyone else will. And then we'll go and work on it. If we plan for our first meeting on community safety as the first one, say in October, maybe in September we could get together again just for another meeting like this to see how we're moving on developing a strategy around this and see how we can improve it. Does that make sense?
and if you think of any further topics, you're always free. Usually with Global Net 21 and myself, what we normally do is we can have some days very, very busy, like you've seen here today. Policing is right. If I was to say which was your topics, it was policing, as you've just seen. And also we've got issues of diversity and inclusion. We've also got social health. So while me and Francis are selecting the topics of interest that you're all interested with, this is what we have had to go through, and we're sort of bringing it together. Some topics are more favorable to others. Global Net 21 has got a following over 7,000. I've got over 20,000. We all have links. And what we are asking you, I'll ask you one more question before we leave here today. We've done future topics that people really are interested with. How can we involve the local communities to give us better ideas? So now the process of bringing new people, you shaping up and you becoming ambassadors of what you're talking about. Because in my case, I believe you're the best champion of what you are talking about. I love to see progress for different people. I love to see you bringing in, like when we're doing, say, for example, Sustainable Development Goals. What we've done with Francis is try and bring people who are interested in various SDGs. So we've got energy people coming together, and that's also efficiency of resources. We're talking about cutting, there's a lot of cutbacks at the moment. So sometimes you'll find that these things are coming together through this community program. So the next question is, how do we involve the local communities to give us a better ideas? Yes.
I mean, the local communities here, because one of the things that Chris and I discussed is not only do we bring in students, but can we bring in the local community around us in some of this? And so if you have any ideas, as Juliet said, on how we can do that, and you want to tell us now, or you can tell us later. In terms of telling us later, by the way, I sent the list around. Did you get it to tick off? So I know you're here, and I know we can then send out to you some information about what we've done today. And if you're not on that list, I hope you can put an email down so we can make sure we can contact you. So please, if you're not on the list, do that. And then you can add to this later. I mean, this isn't the final product.
And the last question you had asked, I've got all of them. So is how can we partner with debating clubs and all other organizations that we've been working over the years? Because remember, some people come in, some people are leaving, they finish school, so you're an alumni. We want to shape up and continue. You know, these thoughts needs to come through, please. Before you leave, do me a favor, you've got these cards. Can you put your, today what we're going to do, can you put your question in place today before you go? What is your personal question? I know you've put it here, but what is your personal interest and your personal question on these cards before you go, and I'll collect them as I go. Thank you.
Juliet doesn't leave you. Juliet doesn't let you leave a room. So, you know, there's an incentive.
What question would you like? Your personal time question. So you're doing my work, so it will be so easy for me to tell Francis one after another. What's your personal question? Like if you were to come here and have a group of people in here, what's your number one question? You know, we're touching on this, but I know there's policing, which has been discussed a lot, but I can see we have different interests in this room, so...
I mean, Juliet's right in the way, because I talked about community safety. We also got focused on that, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it may be just to take this moment to forget community safety and think, what are the other topics that you think are so important?
So any other subjects and topics that you have interest with? I know yours already, but I still want it down. And I know yours as well. And David, you too?
You want her name as well, or just the question?
No, just your question. Yeah. If you could write your subject, if you're a student, that would help me. Just write your department. That would really help me, because it gives me an idea of which department you're coming from for the university, and it helps us a lot in planning. And while you're doing that, can I appreciate every single one of you? I want to appreciate the internet as well, Facebook, which has come on. We've got another, I won't call all their names, but thank you, Brendan De Cruz, all the way in America as well, John Sutter, Marina Pearson, Jeremy Hilton, Chris Cripps from Coventry, Isatu Conte, thank you, who is a community leader. So we're engaging community leaders in planning as well. I can see what they're asking for. I will be telling Francis later. Gary Ayeko, all the way, who is also a doctor in Kenya, has come in. Benjamin, thank you so much for coming in. Mohammed Sadiq, thank you for watching from Hackney. Philip Nyamai from Kenya. Andrew Kamanu watching from Kenya as well. So we've got a lot of Kenyans and Nigerians coming in today, people from America. Duncan Okello as well coming in. Louis Shalom. So we've had an audience of almost 100 people on top of what we've got. So thank you so much for all of you engaging us. So you can imagine 100 people roughly still coming in. I usually finish with something that is so special in my heart. And tonight I get a feeling that we are all interested in something, and just drawing it to an end unless somebody's really got something pressing, because I know some people want to go and watch football. Is there anything that was left?
Anything else? Or we could just informally break up, and anyone wants to chat informally, that would be great. I mean, I just want to say thank you, because we came up with a lot of really good ideas to work on. It's quite complex there, but I think we've come up with something really, really special, actually, that I think we can do here now. And it's going to be very productive. So thanks, everyone. So what we'll do is, I mean, I'll look at it and talk to Chris, and we'll try and put it into some sort of structure. I'll send it out to you, so that won't be immediate. I'll send it out to you. You give us some feedback. We'll have another planning meeting in September to look at the whole thing, and we'll start off in October with community safety, but at the same time we'll have all your other topics down that we can look at from there on. And the community safety one will be our first one, but it'll also be like a pilot as well. It'll be a way to see how this works. So it'll be quite good. So thanks very much. And we have our own Oprah Winfrey.
And since we are still online as well, I still want to say all the communities we like to engage, both here from the university, from the local voluntary group, from your communities and students, from international, from every single person. So we want to build a better world. We are the better world. So please, 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 feel free to talk to myself. I'm always available. You can always ask Francis for my number or email, or you can just contact him directly. The message will always get hold of me. The topics are entirely, purely picked random. There's no one like we say, oh, today we are doing community safety first, because I don't want people to fight. There is no fighting. So what we do is we just select, like you've seen, we'll check on that. And usually myself and Francis will come to an arrangement, and we will decide which one goes first. And we get so many inquiries even after this, so you can imagine how many people are already communicating. For that reason, you're the ambassadors for the future. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
The very first planning meeting, it's actually been broadcast.
So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Many, many thanks. Can I say thank you so much all for watching? I'm going to be going to Shiro Wanaina, thank you so much. Eda Grace, thank you so much. Elizabeth Koroma, thank you so much. William Mutali, thank you. Ababu Sisi, thank you so much. Louise Hoffman, many, many thanks for watching. Please, all of you, send me your topics of choices, things that you want us to engage in, things that you want us to communicate in, things that you want us to really, really discuss, things that really impact upon all of us as people. Thank you so much. We're reaching out. Mohammed, give me your topics. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Lib Dems as well, so this is really important for me. When I hear people asking about diversity issues, I think about it in cross parties as well. So I love what we are doing here, all the way from London Metropolitan University tonight here with students and the local community. Thank you so much for coming in. Duncan Okello, thank you so much. And everybody, many, many thanks. I'll finish off by saying you are all part of our communities, because we believe that you are the best people to solve the solutions of the problems of where you are in your communities. Until next time, please come, just reach out to me. You can always get hold of me on +4477 423 84052. I repeat, +4477 423 84052. My hashtag is at JNM1000, at JNM1000. So you can always reach out to me. And also, I will be putting this program on YouTube, so you can follow it up. So for those who have missed it, you will always have a copy. Please bring it on. All the topics will be discussed in future discussion. Together, we are able to work together. UK Africa Diaspora Forum collaborating with Global Net 21. Many, many thanks for the work that these communities are doing, and thank you so much, Francis Sealy and the London Metropolitan University, for what you're doing today. Good night for tonight. Thank you. Bye-bye.